I wanted to do this video. It was important to me because I heard some of my fellow brother and sisters, ragging on the IFB, which, if you don't know what that means, it means Independent Fundamental Baptists. And I am an Independent Fundamental Baptist, and I just wanted to bring out the distinctions between the groups and let you guys know that not all IFB people are heretics. And that we can all get along, at least most of us. There are some crazies out there, so I will admit that. So I wanted to let everybody know that Spencer Smith gave me permission, because I am a channel member of his personally, to review this video live on the Layman Seminary. My goal in reviewing this is twofold. Is to educate my brothers and sisters on the IFB, and maybe even some of the distinctions that there's like factions breaking off of us, calling themselves the new Independent Fundamental Baptists, so the NIFB. They tend to be more covenantal, and there's a lot of stereotypes coming against the IFB because of the NIFB. And I don't really want us associated with them in some ways. I mean, there are some actual, like, really good NIFB preachers, but there are some crazies out there too, and they mainly come from the NIFB camp. So I want to kind of go over the distinctions between them. I think Spencer does a pretty good job in explaining, about the people with, out there doctrines. And I want to make sure that we're as accurate as possible and being specific as possible, calling out the heretics, and not just blanket statement calling, out all IFB. Maybe naming some names is always good, I think. Number two, I'm hoping that Spencer Smith will actually see this video, maybe gain some understanding of the partner paradigm model, that seamlessly aligns with the free grace, once saved, always saved dispensational theology, and will allow him to better understand the kingdom of God. As with always, and it doesn't matter if it's IFB or just regular Baptists or anybody who holds the once saved, always saved position, they always tend to mesh some of the Calvinist positions in, which I don't think that we really have to do that. I think the whole kingdom of God and the partner paradigm theology makes that, you can completely get rid of the Calvinism. So I'm hoping that he gets to see some of that today. And I'm going to show you guys here in just a minute the comment where he gave me direct permission to share this video. But I wanted to first, actually, no, let's just do that now. I'll share that. I'll share my
screen. All right. So just a few quick guidelines, Ashley. We do have a short flight tonight until 9:30.
Oh, okay.
So we got to keep that in mind. So this audience will probably be pretty fast paced in some senses. And when you want to drill down, Ashley, let us know.
Let me cut this down then. Right. I definitely want to show everybody the permission, because I don't want there to be any questions asked about that.
And then one more thing really quick for Ben, anybody else who might join the panel, let Ashley know when you want to stop the video so you can interact with something that you think is significant. Other than that, Ashley, go ahead.
And my question is, do we have to stop every 20 seconds, considering he actually gave me permission to share this?
I would say we could probably push it further if you'd like, but if we're going to get through that video, it's probably going to be, and then possibly, like Janet might be wanting to say, we could probably still get copyright strike from YouTube Direct. Anyways, let's just do the best we can to interact with it. I hope it happens organically, but if not, maybe you can put it on 1.25.
Okay. All right, let me do that right now so I do not forget about that.
Yeah, well, Ashley is putting up the permission. I wanted to just say, when you deal with the Independent Fundamental Baptists, you're dealing with more than just one group. There are those that are just separate. They're only by themselves. You have IFB that may be in small little groups that they work with. Then you have like the IFB we're talking about, or the new IFB. So even in the when you mention IFB, you can be mentioning a lot of different other areas.
Correct. Okay, can you hear me? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's where I wrote the comment on his stream, asking if I could show this, make it public, and asked if I could review it, and he said do it. Okay, so just I had a couple things typed out about Spencer. Like, I wanted to give you some background because there's some of you that don't know who Spencer is. He got popular from his Third Adam videos. He has 4 of them. There's millions of views on those 4 Third Adam videos. It mainly covers topics like modern Christian music, world religions, social issues, the charismatic church, false teachers, and rise of the divine feminine. So, preaching against all of those things. So we're just going to get right into it since we don't have much time. And you beep me. When you want to stop, you got to beep.
Cannot hear the voice.
Can't hear.
Hold on. Beep. Okay. I didn't share the okay, hold on. Let me kick myself out here. Present. Hold on. Stop screen. I gotta present again. Share. Where's the button to share the audio? Also share tab audio. That was on. Okay.
And just remember, Ashley, if we have to, we can do a part 2.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Okay,
I got it. Okay, let me know when you can see it again, and then I'll start it again.
Okay. We can see the picture.
Okay.
Do not subscribe, so please go ahead.
And we can hear.
Okay.
And also smite the like button on this video, and that'll be a great blessing. I want to share with you a couple thoughts that are on my heart for today, and give you some clarity and some perspective on a few things. And the title of today's video will be Exposing the IFB. Exposing the IFB. Now, I know that there has been a number of things sent my way, where there's people online, internet personalities, and even documentary series where people are exposing this dreadful, nefarious, evil, wicked thing called the IFB that is out there. And no doubt there's been some people that have been legitimately hurt, and there's been some people who have some legitimate grievances, and I get that. And I stand with a lot of these people, and actually even surprisingly share a lot of these grievances with these people. But I am still a person who holds to the position that the Bible teaches the church, the local church, should be independent. I also believe in what we call a fundamentalist standpoint, which means that we not only hold to the fundamentals of the faith, but we actually separate from those who don't. And we certainly don't use their music in our churches. And then also, of course, I am a Baptist because of what I believe about polity, what I believe about the mode of baptism, and certain things of that nature. So first of all, let me give you my resume, if I could give it to you that way. I got saved in 2001, and I started traveling full time.
Just
go ahead, Kurt.
okay. Again, also to help with the algorithm and all. The other thing, I do like the way he's presenting himself at this point. Nice shirt, well dressed, of course. Having the stuff on the background or on the whiteboard makes it look very teacher professional type way. So the starting off is very well. I like the fact that he kind of up front, which I do know a lot of IFB people will, is kind of put down where their main stance are, the overview stance, and I do like that he did place that.
Okay, anybody else?
Now, for disclosure, I is a Baptist. So
Okay.
Just to kind of say, so I'm pro and con on Baptist things. So
Yeah, and he kind of basically laid out how I laid it out, which is the role of baptism, the fundamentals of the faith, which is, you could define anything as that. And if you believe the individual churches should be independent, which deals with ecclesiology. So, I mean, I don't I don't think IFB has any actual sort of definition behind it to really attack. Because if you're just a regular evangelical Protestant, then you're probably hold to a lot of views of IFB. So I don't. I wonder exactly what he's gonna defend. You know.
Yeah, very exciting. Let's go, Ashley. Thank you very much.
Around 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. And I was preaching in churches all across this country. I preached in every state except probably 3 of them. So I've preached in 47 states. I've not preached in Alaska, Hawaii, and I think I haven't preached in Vermont. But other than that, I preached in every single state in the United States of America. I preached in several different countries across the world. And I tried to do a total, and I've not kept good records through the years, but I've tried to keep a total of how many churches I've preached in, and I'm over. I know I'm for sure over the 400 mark. I think I'm closer to 500 churches preached in, and with that.
Yeah, it's with him doing the different states and all, with us on YouTube and being able to speak and do these different things. We're in all the states and other countries, so we beat him on that.
That's awesome.
We're in the Philippines and India and Britain.
And China. We even have people in China watching and stuff like that.
Yeah, sorry, that was Kurt's competitive German side. Right.
Yeah. Well, an interesting fact, in Germany, Baptists are considered a cult because, again, it being Lutheran, they don't really like the Baptists.
Interesting.
All right, Ashley, we got a lot to dig into. Let's keep going.
Met hundreds and hundreds of pastors. There's been even more on top of that, probably thousands of people that I have met that were pastoring churches that I have not preached for. And my wife and I have traveled, just been all over the place. And I've heard so many good men. I went to a very big Bible college in the independent fundamental Baptist world. And so I have a good big picture perspective. Now, I watched a video the other day of a person online who, they talked about leaving the IFB cult. And as I started to listen to this person, I realized that their experience was very narrow. They experienced just a slither of this broad group that people like to refer to called the IFB. And so because within that sliver, that very narrow experience that they had with just a small handful of people, then somehow because of that, they broad brushed everybody as being bad. And I don't think that's necessarily fair. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's smart. And I personally don't think anybody who says that is being
really quick,
really big. I mean, being unfair.
This will only take me a moment. I don't know if he's going to get into this, but do we know how many associations, covenants, any kind of whatever words fit into that? Do we know of any number of that represent how many groups within the Baptist umbrella? Do we have any idea?
Yeah, I do. I don't have the information right in front of me though. But
dozens, hundreds.
Do you know the Ready to Harvest, the Ready to Harvest channel? How they always do distinctions between like. Wow, I can't believe you've never seen the Ready to Harvest channel. Like they do brief overviews of like all the different denominations. It's actually a pretty cool channel. But they did one on Baptists and he goes over all of that information. I did a chart. I have a huge chart on all of the groups, like of all the Protestants and like when they split off. And I have his chart and I have a lot of information about that if you guys want to see it after.
Right. Just real quick for the audience, I just recently started studying primitive Baptists and I found at least 4 main subcategories. And then within that, probably another 2 or 3 for each category.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even count for independent fundamental Baptists because they are independent. Right. They don't have to share. Every single church can be different if they want to.
Right.
Like that's the whole point of being independent. So there is
Paul's autonomy for the independent church from the New Testament, right?
Yeah, you just have to hold to if you're going to call yourself a Baptist, then you have to hold to the Baptist distinctives. But that's pretty much it, Okay.
That's all I had for you.
Yeah.
Disingenuous is putting it mildly. But here's a thing I want to show you, and this is some stuff I want to put on the board for you, and just check this out with me, okay? For every 20 good men that I've met on the road, my travels and things that I've seen, I have met one crazy guy. And no doubt, I really do believe that there are men pastoring independent fundamental Baptist churches that are nuts, that they shouldn't be in a pulpit anywhere. So for every 20 good men that I met, I have met one crazy. Now, let me show you on the screen what that looks like. We have right here 20 different people, and these little tick marks that I have, and forgive the smudge here, I apologize for that. For every blue tick mark I have on the screen, for every 20, I have one crazy nut job in the mix. Now, is it fair necessarily to define the whole group by one red tick? Are the little notches in this group, are they blue or are they red? You look at the one red in there and you say they're all red. Well, that you would.
I heard some beeping, Ashley.
Hey, Ashley, I think there's something. The video is like really messed up. I don't know.
I think that there's a delay.
It's like freezing up. That's all I was stopping it for.
Is it freezing up for everybody?
Yeah, is that just me?
Yeah, it's the
Oh,
whole
I thought it was
thing.
just me. Yeah, it's horrible on my end.
Yeah. Well, you look at that. I wanted to say also, the one thing about under the IFB is they do like they're a little bit more inflammatory sometimes in their wording.
Yeah.
And so like nut job, and I know that because coming from the fundamentalist background that I came, I would use wording like that myself, and I sometimes still do. So it's something we're taught in the way of being a little bit more blunt and rhetoric sometimes within our language when talking about someone.
Right. Hey, Ashley, what if you do this? What if you notice the timestamp, refresh it, start it at normal speed, and then get it going for a few seconds, and then press 125.
Okay.
Because I've had this happen before when I do 125. Sometimes I lose sync, but I think you were. It seemed like you were having an additional problem too. I don't know. So maybe put it back to 125, refresh, go back to your timeline, let it run for 10 seconds, and then speed it up. See if that works.
Yeah. While she's doing that, when it comes to Baptists, also there's your higher case independent, and then you have lowercase independent. That usually are ones that will go into groups and doing that. So, yeah, that, like Ashley said, it's hard to know how many actual different groups there are because of the independence.
Yeah.
Oh, Ashley, that might be the problem too. You can lower the resolution a little bit. It won't take away too much from it if you lower the resolution slightly.
So I had the resolution set to 480. What should I have it set to?
The higher the resolution, the more delay potential there is. So
Okay, well, I had it
keep it at 480.
Keep it at
and
480.
then after it runs for 10 seconds and it seems to be well, then you can speed it up, and then hopefully the sync in the mouth won't be so bad.
Oh, and the playback speed should be 1.25.
Well, we said to set it lower first and then let it go.
Yeah. After 5 or 10 seconds, if he's good, speed it up then.
All right, let's try this and see if it works then.
Like if I were to say, what color are the little notches in this group? Are they blue or are they red? And you look at the one red in there and you say they're all red. Well, that's just not factual. That's not true. How could you say such a thing? Because they're blue and red, and there's only one of these red things. So here's a post that I made on Facebook the other day, and I want to share this with you because I think it's very important. And so let me read this to you for just a moment. Some things I learned on deputation, which that's what I call my traveling experiences. There are some seriously crazy men pastoring churches. These men are nasty, rude, believe some crazy things, and don't treat their guests very well. Also, there are some incredible men pastoring churches that have character. They're gracious, kind, doctrinally sound, and they are perfect gentlemen. For every crazy guy I met at least 20 wonderful guys. When people are online are, quote, exposing the IFB, they're always talking about the first group, which is the vast minority.
So, this is an interesting perspective. I mean, it's true, and this goes for every single group ever. This goes for police, if you're against police or whatever, or this goes for, like even if you're, against particular ideologies. There's very polite people. when people are exposing the IFB, I think they are exposing maybe sometimes their doctrinal beliefs. I don't think necessarily that. I think they might just be exposing their own personal experiences, and it's also for views and whatever. So I don't know how accurate it is, but what he's saying is not wrong. It's just, some people have just had those experiences and they just need to vent, and they just have, and instead of it like exposing this particular pastor, it's like, why don't I just make it about the whole group,
Yeah.
If I can,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, I was going to say the generalization is definitely a big problem just with in every situation. There's always generalizations that are made of small minorities, which is a problem. But also, I think based on his definition of what IFB means, it's hard to draw a generalization even over doctrinal beliefs, because there's so much fluidity and leniency in what you actually have to believe to be IFB. So it's hard to even make a generalization about that. I will say, though, that sometimes I think the voices that are the most critical and the most extreme are the loudest voices. So sometimes the illusion can come off that the louder, when there's more sound coming from a smaller group, that smaller group isn't so small. Because like the news doesn't cover minuscule events like traffic jams on roads that always have traffic jams. The news covers the abnormalities, and that's what gets clicks, that's what gets likes, because people don't like to listen to the everyday thing. They want to hear the things that are, like Steven Anderson, right? People who scream and yell and call for the death of gays, right? So you hear things like that, and I'm sure, like he said, you associate NIFB with IFB because they share 3 of the same letters in their acronym. So, I mean, I agree with him that there's too much generalization, and we should. Steven Anderson's wrong. That's all I'll say.
Right.
Yeah,
And Ashley,
I agree with that.
I'll say one more thing, Ashley, before we continue on. Because I want to make this a more richer, a deeper conversation more quickly. So I'll just say this. It seems to me that the distinctions tend to be, there are IFB churches, air quotes, you can't see it, but I'm doing air quotes, that have a more of a covenantal leaning. Yeah.
Yes.
And their eschatological framework can be a little different than free grace dispensationalists.
Absolutely.
And I mean more, when I say dispensationalists, I mean classical, right? Or
Yes.
Acts 2. Taylor's here. Hey, Taylor.
Yay!
Speaking of that IFB trash.
Wait.
I'm just joking. Taylor, I think Taylor, were you from an IFB group? Is that correct?
Yeah, I was with NIFB for a bit.
NIFB. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, I know. Okay.
Right. So, Ashley, I'm doing that for your sake. So, as the panel, keep that in mind, that I've at least run by that, right? So, that might be where we bump heads a little bit if we're talking free grace, dispensational. Again, not mid-acts. I don't represent them. I don't think any of us do.
No.
We're talking more of a classical view on dispensational, whatever that means, because we're all still studying our distinctives, LOL, right? And then the eschatological framework that can come with that. And then the other thing I'll say really quickly is it seems to be apostasy, seems to be, I don't want to just say reprobate doctrine, but I would say more apostasy, right? So in other words, they just can't see any verses saying it's possible to become a Satan worshiper and die that way, right? That's the 2 things I'm seeing on the panel. So as we continue on,
I've actually never ever experienced that with IFB or NIFB.
Okay.
The only IFB and NIFB I've ever experienced are always, once saved, always saved, and they would say that you could be a Satan worshiper and still be saved. But I mean, like I said, that's the whole point of independent. There's lots of independents out there. Yeah.
So before we go on, do you want me to panel? Do you think that I'm showing something of accuracy or no? Do you see those as being distinctions, or am I incorrect?
I think you are correct, and because again, there is a variety. So even in the independent Baptists, you do have those that do hold to more. They'll say they're once saved, always saved, but then they end in apots. Preservation of the saints, by saying if you apostatize, you never were saved. So they'll go that route. And I said, there are those that have the Reformed in them, Calvinistic Reformed ideas in them, not so much covenantal. I do know a lot of people when they're saying that is usually he has to deal with the rules that those churches try to place on their people.
Yes.
And that's one of the biggest problems, especially when people start bucking because of what Scripture says.
Yes.
And how they cannot defend why they're saying what they're saying.
Yes.
Here, I'll say something on this topic as well. The generalizations that I have going into this, I'll just be upfront and honest. These are some of the generalizations that are in my brain about IFB. One of them would be the legalism. From what I've noticed, I've seen a lot of legalism with, I think they call them fundies, fundamental Baptist. I don't know if that's separate or if that's a different category as independent fundamental Baptist, but I've heard a lot about fundamental Baptists, and schools come to my mind, right? Like I'm trying to think of what that one school is. It's like the most popular legalistic Bob Jones University.
Yeah, Bob Jones, Pensacola Christian.
So when I think of independent fundamental Baptist, my mind goes to Bob Jones. I also think number two, I was in a fundamental Baptist Discord server with quite a lot of people, and there was actually a lot of subjects and disagreements over interracial marriage. That was a big problem that I've seen. About very, very adamant about the idea of interracial marriage and how that's wrong.
Wait, what?
I've never seen that before ever, but I believe you.
Yeah, there was actually someone I know that was kicked out of the Discord group. I was also removed. I was banned from it as well for my beliefs. But someone I know that was banned because he disagreed with them simply over the interracial marriage, which I thought that was a crazy reason to ban someone. Yeah. And then I think the last thing was, or that might have been it. Oh yeah, the last thing would be the POTS. I have noticed POTS with like, and I don't know if this is NIFB exclusive or if I'm linking these together. If so, I apologize. Like I said, these are the generalizations that are in my mind. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, it could be Southern Baptist too. But go ahead.
Yeah,
right, and that's same as with that. But like the idea of apostasy and the idea of reprobate doctrine. Mm-hmm. So those.
So hold on. What is POTS again? I can't remember the acronym.
Perseverance of the Saints.
That's what I thought. Perseverance of this. Okay, that's what came into my mind. Okay.
It's the P of the tulip.
Ashley, before we move on,
not marijuana.
I believe Ben, I was communicating with you in the Discord, correct? Was that you?
Oh yes.
Right. So did you have any? Are you from an IFB church or an NIFB church or any background in that?
Oh yeah. So I currently attend an independent Baptist church, and I actually think Grant brought up a really great point in the sense that like there's a lot of like in the independent fundamental Baptist movement, there are people who, like, if you sort of deviate from them in their doctrine, like they'll start to sort of anathematize you. They'll call you a whole bunch of names. And I actually know a guy who was kicked out of an IFB church he didn't think that I think Romans 10, like that's a big thing in the IFB, calling on the name of the Lord. He didn't think that you needed to confess with your mouth to be saved, and he got kicked out. So so I think that's what kind of like results in a lot of like the Baptist hate, for example. And like as an independent Baptist, like there are definitely some pastors that are so like extreme, and like they're willing to like anathematize you just for having something like a little deviation in their doctrine. So.
And how about this, Ashley? Can I play you off of Ben in the sense, do you guys know each other at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
Ashley, what would be your 3 or 5, maybe 5 distinctives that you go by, like your hermeneutic, your eschatology, your soteriology, and then let's, not to put Ben on the spot or anything, because I'm pretty sure Ben believes in eternal security, so we're all good here.
Are you talking about me personally or my church?
Probably you and your church, and then we want to see Ben interact with that, because we're trying to get to the distinctives. You know, what are people's actual experiences? You know what I mean?
So in my church, soteriology is incredibly important. You know, you have to be once saved, always saved, free grace. They don't.
With apostasy being an option, correct?
Apostasy is an option in my
go.
church,
Mhm.
and there's no like real distinctive. They don't talk about like focus free grace or flexible free grace. They don't do that.
They know nothing of it, probably, right?
They probably know nothing of it, to be perfectly honest. A very big distinctive is in my church is like the fence laws. I believe that like we throw up that aren't exactly in the Bible is the King James only. We are King James only, which I am not King James only. But I love my King James, so don't get me wrong.
When you say King James only for the audience,
yeah,
King James supremacist.
How distinct are they in that? Would they say if I read NASB 50% of the time and King James the other, or 50% of the time I'm reading NASB, I'm a heretic?
They believe it's for sanctification purposes, that if you want to be a good student and a good Berean, that you will have your King James Bible.
So
you will use it exclusively to study, and you don't even have to reference the other books too. They believe that you can get saved out of any Bible, but if you are going to be the best scholar in the Bible, that you must use the King James, and you better not even think about bringing any other Bible to the church. Okay, so but we're not like completely extreme on it to where we say you have to have that as the only Bible to get saved out of. Like we don't do that, but we're like, you should really use that.
Okay. Synoptic Gospels, rewards.
Yeah. Well, I'm still going though, so hold on. Like our music, we are very strict on our music. And I kind of agree on that in some points that like there's absolutely no drums or anything like that. There's no like electric music. You don't get up on like stage and play an electric guitar and beat the drums. Like we do mainly, like singing and piano, and we have guitars and banjos and, violins and all those, the stringed instruments. We're dispensational. So dispensational and, like very classical dispensational. They know nothing of the kingdom of God, and like I do, so I disagree in that point. Like I'm very much like partner paradigm, and I mean, yeah, like the people run the church, not the pastor. So we have business meetings and we vote on everything.
Okay, so Ben and Taylor, would you concur? Do you have more distinctions, less distinctions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think like my church is pretty much the same. King James only. I am personally King James only, but I'm not gonna judge you if you use any other Bible. Like it is what it is. If you have your convictions, then you can follow.
So it could be an in-house debate, but you're not a total loser heretic going to hell if you don't necessarily, right? Something like that.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah, and my church is dispensational, and they are pre-trib. I differ on those points. I am non-dispensational and I'm post-trib, but again, that's not a big deal for me. Like that's kind of a secondary issue.
Sure. Taylor, did you have more? I'm sorry, Ben. Did you have any more? Apostasy. What do they do with that?
They're optional on that. I personally, I don't think that's a thing to like really divide over. I think it's just a little bit of a different interpretation, but right. I'm not gonna like call one like a damnable heretic for
right.
holding that view.
I think just to clarify again, this panel is more about distinctives than free gracers trying to rip IFB people apart. It's more like we're doing we're probing. We're scoping, we're learning. Testing.
Right.
Because some of us maybe in the past in the free grace world, at least on Discord, have more blanket statements. So we're trying to refine ourselves, hold ourselves more consistent and accountable, and learn a little bit. So take it more like that. So you're welcome on the panel. No hostilities, nothing like that. Taylor, do you have anything in particular?
So what did you mean by distinctives again? Like
within distinctives that you would see, let's say, between the free grace people that we know on Discord, classical, dispensational, and then like IFB or NIFB. We're trying to understand how they differ from us and things like that, and how consistent they are within their own groups. Like, I see 3 or 4 different kinds of IFB.
But this will be interesting because Taylor was in NIFB, so
right.
Fair enough. His distinctives.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, to clarify, I was previously lordship, and because I was struggling with eternal security, and then it was Stephen Anderson's sermon on eternal security that got me like fully, I guess, secure in my salvation. So because of that, I was naturally like drawn to NIFB and his preaching, and that's how I got hooked up with people on Discord and stuff. But actually, then from there, I started learning about free grace and dispensationalism, and so I kind of separated once I, because looking back, I could see based on some of the things brought up earlier that they weren't actually free grace, because like they have a free grace kind of gospel, but when you get in like Romans 10 on calling the name of the Lord and certain other, how if you currently believe a certain way, how we talked about how they'd anathematize you. Well, they'd go so far to say, well, you there's no way you really believed if you believe this now. So those kind of things are definitely a distinctive, at least within NIFB and probably a lot of IFB churches, where they take their legalism too far and they start making judgment calls on your salvation, even though they're eternal security, even in a right way sometimes. Although most, I think, in the Baptists I've talked to that aren't online, they don't believe you can apostatize. Like they would believe that means you're never saved.
So I either actually, for the sake of time, I can speak for the panel, or we can let them all react before we move on. But I would say, speaking from a free grace, classical dispensational point of view, soteriologically, I would say that the main thing with us would be we're not going to call anybody not saved or something like that. If they differ in Romans 10, 9, and 10, if they differ in several things, even the reprobate doctrine, which I think is personally terrible, but if they understood the gospel clearly, they're saved. So
Amen.
It would be a matter of how we treat people that disagree with us. And the Romans 10:9 thing could be a difficulty, because they're saying that maybe we teach a false gospel or something, or depending on how focused or flexible we are. Ashley also, they might say that we have a heretical gospel. I'm not sure how far they would go. But if we're consistent on our side, we could never say that they're not saved based off their testimony, right? It would just be a matter of in-house debates at that point, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And they're saying with the Romans passage, you're saying that they're saying that you have to call on the name of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to basically say, when you if you're witnessing to someone and they say, hey, okay, I believe this, and they would go, okay, well, let's pray, let's thank God, or however they want to phrase it, that they would, then if they wouldn't count your salvation if you didn't do that. If you said, no, I'm good, thanks, take care, they wouldn't believe you got saved.
Yeah,
even though you said I believe all that you just said,
my church is totally not like that. Like we even talk to people, and if they say, well, I don't know, I got to think about it, and we'll hand them the track and be like, okay, well, if you do this, and if you don't have, we will even tell them you don't have to say anything out loud. You just have to believe in your heart. So we're very
What if you're mute?
What if you're a mutant? Yeah, exactly.
They have their lit's an issue for them. It's an issue. And
let me pose another idea. Maybe another night, what we could do is we could look at some of the tracks that your church uses.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Good idea there, man.
Yeah.
Not to put Ben on the spot, but Ben, would that be a problem in your particular? Again, we're gracious here. Don't worry about distinctions. But would your church have a really big problem with the Romans passage, Romans 10?
No, I think they're pretty flexible about it. Okay. They do say that, look, it's helpful to call on the name of the Lord in faith, but it has to be done in faith for it to be effective. But they don't really have to confess with their mouth explicitly to be saved.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, that would, in my church, that would be more of a baptism thing. Like if that's a discipleship thing and a sanctification thing, and we are fully for, baptism is for sanctification, saying, separating yourself, being a disciple of the Lord. And that's when you call on, the name of the Lord and, profess your faith in him.
So if you're dealing with the tracks, the old chick tracks would be a good one to show.
Real quick before you go, because we probably need to keep moving.
Yeah.
What do you guys? I don't want to say this. What do you got, Ashley? What do you know? Do you know Hiles Anderson? Are you familiar with them?
No, I'm not.
All right, go ahead.
Okay.
So I want you to know, are there nutty people who say nutty things and are cruel, nasty, hateful monsters? that are pastoring independent fundamental Baptist churches. Yes, I will be the first to admit that. I've met these people. I know who they are, and I don't promote them. I tell people to avoid them. Now, I want you to realize a couple years ago, I did a documentary called God's Millstone, where I called by name 2 men that were predators in independent fundamental Baptist churches, one of them being Jack Scoffey, the other being David Hiles. That's on the internet. It's called God's Millstone. If you want to go watch it, I'd recommend you do. Even in so-called independent Baptist churches, there are men who have crept in through the years and have done terrible things to young women especially. And I want to say there is no excuse for any of that ever. There is no angle that can justify that. You deserve everything that is coming your way. And I even want to say that those who cover for those and make light for those and excuse those who have done terrible things to children, then you're no better. You're just as guilty. You're sick. And there is no excuse for you. So biblically, what do you say to religious leaders and those who have been involved in situations like this? What do you say? Well, the only thing I can really say is what Jesus has already said. Jesus said, "But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea." God says there's something coming your way, and you would have been better off die.
Yeah.
I think I wonder what they're going to say here.
Well, I mean, I had to stop it because we went over 20 seconds. I want to go through the video though, but you know, I'll say this about like being tied around. You know, it's good that he is exposing, his own camp if they're doing awful things. I do appreciate that.
Mhm.
You know, as for like the being a millstone hanged around his neck, I mean, like that could just refer to capital punishment. You know. Which, I mean, if you are doing that kind of stuff, you probably do deserve capital punishment, especially if it's severe. I'm very extreme on that, you know. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what Kurt had to say.
Well, I was just going to say this whole predator problem is a problem within pretty much all the churches today. There's something going on that is creating where these people are being predators, and it's showing that it's been going on for a while. And so we as churches need to step up and start protecting and looking into how to deal with this issue and stop this. And because even in like the Southern Baptists, they try to do that, and they've kind of backed off and they protected their people. The Catholic Church, they just moved people around, allowed the person to keep doing the same thing. You see that in the other denominations also. So this seems like a prevalent problem that is really within churches today, and it's become even a more exposed thing, especially starting with the mid '80s with Oral Roberts and Jimmy Swaggart.
Yeah, and I'll add in that I know people even from the Lordship camp, and I know this from John MacArthur's church, and you know I had to call him out here. He actually protected a sexual predator, you know, supposedly, and he kept him in his church for years. And he's also, you know, reportedly, I mean, I think he fixed this up, but supposedly there was a woman who was getting abused by her husband, and he kicked her out, and he defended the husband, you know. So there is problems within all of these churches, and nobody's just calling out their own people because they're too afraid, because they want to keep, you know, their influence, their power, their money, and it's very sickening.
Yeah. I want to say this real quick, Ashley. I think it would be better if we make a part 2, because I feel like I want to do justice to the video, given that we only have a little bit left, and I really am enjoying it. I'm only saying this because I want to spend more time on it. But at the same time, I wanted to mention, I think part of the issue with this was something that he already discussed towards the beginning, which was the idea of, or maybe we talked about it, I don't remember, but the idea of having a demagogue, you know, a one person leading a church. I think that this is related to that when you got a power problem. When you have a power problem in the church, where a lot of power is associated with one person, I think that's when a lot of these things happen, which is why elders are really important and having a dispersion of power. And I know you said it, Ashley, about your church, that you are, congregation led. That kind of disperses the power held by one individual in one office. But I think a lot of times with these predator people, I think it usually roots down to they have too much power, which is similar with John MacArthur and his church. He's a demagogue for sure. And so he's hiding people or backing people in the wrong side of things. That lines up with power corrupts.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. That would never happen in a church like my church, because our pastor basically has no power other than he is part of the congregation in one vote.
And Ashley, and to the panel, I think we could probably push it to 9:25. So we have about 35 minutes more left. But yeah, if we have to do a part two, we sure can.
Well,
I just don't want us to rush through the video that Ashley wanted us to react to. That was one thing. I just didn't want her to feel like we had to rush through it.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're only getting.
We're not rushing. It's been an hour. We're only 7 minutes in.
Right. So now, when it comes to the problem is within most Baptist churches, one of the distinctions is that of two offices, pastor and deacons. The problem is most are just single pastor, and what it does is it presents to the best is a benevolent dictator.
Yeah.
Even with congregational rule, because you allow the pastor to have a certain amount of authority to do things and things like that. They're not always held responsible, and if they now again, a lot of them, I believe, that are trying to do according to the Lord and all, but that just makes them a benevolent dictator as a single person. Where if you do have an eldership, and again, I'm not talking about, and even the problem is a lot of elderships just still make whoever does the preaching in the pulpit the benevolent dictator over them, instead of a equal among one, or a one above, or equals among one, and in dealing with the idea of eldership and allowing for the accountability, because even if you do have people underneath, they basically become servants, because again, it's the main pastor that is their boss, and therefore, if they do anything wrong, they're out.
But that's not how that. I mean, that's definitely not how it is in my church. Because
but I'm saying that in a lot of single, even with that, they put it into a regular corporation where you have your boss and those underneath, rather than understanding that there's these people that you're hiring are still pastors. They're equal in the calling, the office. They just may be doing things differently, but they're not treated with that equality.
Okay. And are you saying that there's some Baptist churches that are like that?
Oh, there's a lot of Baptist churches like that.
See, like my experience is so little in that, because our congregation rules. My pastor has no power to put a deacon out. Everything has to be voted on by a business meeting with the church.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, and I understand that. So again, you're really following where everything is going through the congregation, but I've seen where the congregation themselves have gone bad and created a nightmare.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Also, so there's such a variety when it comes to church polity amongst the Baptists and how it's done. I mean, and so much opening for wrong to be done that and how it's created.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Than to have lived and done that and face God with that. To me, that is a horrifying verse. And that's not applying to any specific one person. That's for everybody, including religious leaders, including those who claim to be Orthodox and those who believe the Bible. I have been one of the first guys to do that. There's also a live stream that I did where I named several other guys that I knew, including John Jenkins. And so I have been very consistent in exposing this stuff and talking about it. And then also, if I'll just put this out there: if you know of something of a guy who's independent fundamental Baptist who's done something nefarious, send me the info. I'd be glad to blow the guy up. I'd be glad to. I have no loyalty to any man. I really don't. I think loyalty to men can be a great liability in a lot of denominations and things of that nature. And so, let's talk. Send me some stuff. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to follow me, and I'm gonna draw something on the board. Check this out and go with me, okay? All right, so you got 20, 40, 60, 80.
I think Charles would like this guy.
All right, now watch this, okay? If I'm going to draw, every blue tick here stands for a good pastor who believes the Bible. If you heard him preach, he would feed your soul. These men have integrity, they have character, they love it.
I heard a beep.
Yeah,
Okay.
because again, we're getting.
Go ahead.
One of the things is I'm noticing he's dealing with the subject, but he's not really dealing with a whole lot of subject right now. It's been this one issue and all, and he's been going on and on and on, but not really, and then mentioning all these other things and some specifics and all of people, but he's not diving, so far he's not really diving into the whole IFB issues. We're doing a better job at it than he is right now.
Well, I'm
So
assuming
far,
Ashley,
anyone from any group could make this video with the same statements that he's made, and the same drawing and the same anecdotes.
I'm assuming, Ashley, that the content becomes more distinct. Does he drill down more, become more distinctive as he goes on?
I'm not. Mark, you watched the video too. I think.
Yeah, I know. I've reviewed like 50 videos. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does. I mean, in my charting, I go into more detail than he does, though. Like about
All right. I'll tell you what. If we have to do a part 2, we will. If we
Okay.
have to do a short series on this, we can do that. You know what I mean?
I can even speed him up a little bit if he talks too slow for you.
No, it's fine.
No,
It's not. We're just observing. It's not.
Okay,
Just
okay.
keep going. Yeah.
I'm just, again, it's a reaction video. So again, we're looking at what he, and that of the amount of time he's spending, and he's talking about all these different, where he's mentioning these different people and how he stood up. And I'm thankful he stands up for them, or stands up against these people and make known, because that's one of the things that we need is more people who will do this. And call out their own people, but also call out other people that are, and that of getting rid of them if they're not going to repent and deal, and that of dealing with these things. So I'm in agreement with him doing it. It's just that when dealing with the IFB, this is not the big issue that most people have with the IFB, is the fact that there's some sexual predators here or there. Or that, and yes, and even with the fact of him saying there's some crazy, out of 20 people, there's one crazy person in the pulpit. Well, that would be, then that needs to be more of influence, because what's being, what people are getting is understanding this craziness more than the real stuff that's happening. And he's not making these distinctions.
Yeah, he only named Steve Anderson, but he hasn't really said anything more about that. Let's see if he does, though.
They're kind, gracious men. If you ever met them, they'd love you and you would enjoy them. These are your brothers in Christ. These are good men. You may not agree with them on everything, but every tick here represents a good, solid pastor that you've never heard of. You've never heard of this guy. He's never been in the news because he doesn't say stupid stuff. He's never been involved in some scandal at his church. These men are just silently plowing forward, doing God's will, loving their families, loving their church people, and they are a force for good in their communities, okay? What happens is, and remember, I'm going to use the 20-to-1 ratio here, okay?
I can barely hear Kurt's beat, but I can hear Mark really good whenever
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll go louder with my beats and all.
Beep.
Yeah,
I can hear that really good.
yeah, I'll be more annoying. It's, and the thing is what he's saying about within the IFB is the same way with other denominations also. That there are very good pastors, bishops, people that are serving the Lord and doing a good job in their position. So the reality is this. I think he makes a good point, is that this is actually more common than what we're hearing, because again, in the news, everyone's going to rise in debt to the most horrible things. But for the amount of churches we have to what is going on, it's probably not, like I said, most of them are, I would say probably 90% are on track of doing things right.
And Kurt, I would agree with you with the more like divisive language, you know, like what would you call that? Like when you're just they're like the mean girls of Christianity, you know? Like they're not afraid to call people names. They're not afraid to be mean or vulgar about it either. Like the NIFBs, a lot of I've watched actually a good many NIFB like pastors. And they are all like all of them were not afraid to call names and stuff like that.
And I think a lot that comes based on because of holding to the standards that they hold to. And so with moving out of those standards, they will call things sin. Now, the problem is where part of the problem is that which is in liberty, they call sin. So,
but they can at least do it nicely, you know. They don't have to bash their brothers, you know, like to the point to where they make them look like complete and utter fools, like by calling them names, you know.
Yeah. Well, when you look at Jesus, he did two things. With the religious leaders, he bashed them.
Yeah, he did.
With the common people, he loved them.
Yeah, even if they were wrong.
Right. He worked with them and stuff like that because they were sheep without shepherds.
Yeah.
But with the religious leaders, man, you read the Gospels, whitewashed sepulchres, dead men walking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was brutal to them.
Brutal
He was
vipers.
Yep, vipers. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's and in that way, I think when it comes to leadership, we should be brutal, because again, they're in leadership, but at the same time, we need to remember what the Scripture says. If you're going to come against the elder, there needs to be two or more to make and it needs to be an open accusation, not behind closed doors.
Okay.
Yeah, and when it comes to this particular type of criticism, where like nobody's talking about these very small people that, you know, are just kind of generally doing good, I think that's a particular type of bias. I think it's like either the availability heuristic, or it's like a fallacy where the most popular thing represents the whole. And so people and this is for literally everything. This is for plane crashes. This is for police. This is for pastors. And yeah, I don't hear about these guys, unfortunately, because there's no news article that says that a pastor of Minnesota, you know, went over to a widow's house or whatever. You know, it doesn't happen, unfortunately.
But the good thing is this should be something the congregation is clearly able to see. And therefore keeping, again, their elder or elders, depending on what they may have, accountable. And not just the elders keeping each other, but the congregation keeping the elders accountable, along with the elders keeping the congregation accountable. It's the one another's. All because they're in a position in the church don't mean that they should not be held accountable or help to keep others accountable.
Okay, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 red ticks and all of that. Now take a good look at the perspective here. And these 1, 2, 3, 4 guys will get together in a conference, and they will say dumb stuff. They will promote unbiblical things, and they will claim that they are the champions and they're the ones who, and they're so unhinged, they're so crazy. I mean, they're so out of touch. Usually, what happens is when people are exposing the IFB, they're talking about that bunch right there. They're talking about that small 1 out of 20 group.
Was that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll put it in a lower voice and all. and he's correct. I've been at the pastors' conferences. You always get those few that get together, creating trouble. I had one because one of the things is people like when they got together, they like to brag about how many numbers they have on Sunday. That's something that Baptists love to do. Well, I had one that was in more of a new church, and so they would joke and they said, "Yeah, we only had 20 come this Sunday." and I mean, because again, all these people bragging, but what did you really do? So you had people come, big deal. So, but yeah, there's always the ones that get together and they come together and they create nightmares.
I noticed as Janet was handing out the mid-flight snacks, she asked a question. She says, at TLS, how does he specify the red one?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same.
Is there a covenant or go ahead?
I was going to ask the same question, basically, like, what does he mean by crazy? How does he define that?
I think he's defining it as the ones who are saying stupid things, the ones that are causing trouble at these conferences, the ones that are on the news for saying crazy things, you know.
But what about doctrinally, though? Is there something doctrinally?
I don't know. Let's go on and see if he says that.
I do know that within part of the problem is they like to, as what was saying, is starting to ostracize everyone because you're not following their orthodoxy, their rules, their regulations. They'll start. What they do is they'll start insulting everybody that isn't there. This soy boy is wearing skinny pants. This little girl is looks like a slut,
or is wearing pants.
Yeah, and they say things like that. So and of course you get in your little group and it becomes acceptable to be demeaning, to be completely ungodly in your speech, to just say. Be on the throne of God and start judging people's salvation because you're not following their legalistic rules. That would be some of the crazies that I would say he's dealing with.
And they're already starting to break off and make their own little faction because they're already starting to name themselves the NIFB. So that's rather new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are actually pastors who have left the NIFB as well. So they were like informing their own like independent Baptist churches now because of like the controversy associated with the movement and like the different, in my opinion, like doctrinal shortcomings.
Interesting. Do you have like a name, like who did that?
Right. Yeah. So one example is Tyler Baker, if you've heard of him. He actually used to be under Steven Anderson. And I think he was kicked out for being a modalist. But then he actually created his own church. And now he's classical Trinitarian. And I think another example is Adam Fannin. Like he was associated with NIFB. He left that too.
Did he really? I've watched a good many videos of him. When did he leave?
I think it was 5 years ago. I don't think he associates with them anymore. But
he definitely does. Okay, so if it's been in with the past 5 years, he definitely holds to some of their, he hasn't changed very much. He definitely still holds to some of their distinctives because of, I used to watch him not long ago.
Mm-hmm. He probably does.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, among Baptists, that is one of their distinctives. They get ticked off over something, and then they move down. A group moves down the street and opens up a new church. And
hence that's how my church was formed.
Yep, that's how
why there's 65.
A lot of Baptists are formed. And it's not usually over doctrine.
It wasn't.
It's over some church fight of like the color of the carpet. Someone did this. They painted something and I don't like the color that they painted. They're allowing this person to sing and I don't like the way she sings, so we're going to go. I mean, that's the stupidity of the Baptist.
I know a church.
As a Baptist,
I know a church that split, a Baptist church that split over the idea of what color the carpet was going to be.
oh yeah,
No, you don't.
I do.
Wow.
yep. I've seen it. I've been there with those churches before too.
My mentor, my discipler, he was part of a church that split up because they were fighting over if the carpet should be orange or green. This was back in the, before 2000, so orange was probably a popular carpet color back then. But yeah, they split over that.
Wow.
I was in a lowercase independent church going, not a member there, but they had a business meeting where they had to they needed to raise money and so that they can repave the pavement because the local government said they needed to repave it. It almost did not pass. Here the government is coming in and saying, and it was because what they did was, now as a congregation, we need a vote as a congregation to be able to do this. It's like, no, you don't have a say in this matter now. It's a matter of, this is what we need to do because the government is coming in and saying we need to do it. There's not a vote that we need to do. What we want to do now is we need to create a fund so that we can put money in to raise to be able to do this. Sorry, but that's when the congregation doesn't have a vote.
Yeah.
And it almost didn't pass. Like I said, I've been around the stupidity
of people who are everybody here agrees that these guys are unhinged, and everybody here in this circle has nothing to do with these guys. They don't like them. They don't send their kids to their college if they have one. They don't promote them. They don't read their books. They don't do conferences with them. There is no connection here. But people lump them all in with these other good men, and it's just not right. Now, let me throw this at you. Okay, let's do a logical exercise here. I'm going to erase just a little bit on this board, and let's just erase this here. Instead of this IFB thing, okay, let's say that I look at a group like this, and I say these are black people, okay, and
Wait.
black people, community, and 4 of them are hardened criminals. So all black people are just a bunch of terrible people.
Yo,
You would
clip
say I
that.
was racist. You would say I was unhinged. You would say, how dare this guy say something so terrible? Well, I mean, you're right, because 4 people out of 80 don't mean that the whole group is bad. That you would call me a racist.
If these two married each other.
I had to
the
get
blue.
this whole thing.
Yeah, the thing is, I understand, but it's those 4 guys that are actually saying stupid stuff like that. And that's where the problem is. The others are not, but the thing is because of them being independent of each other, they really don't speak out against the other churches. And if you're coming together as a conference and they keep coming, you're kind of doing something together. And so for you as that, you really need to speak out against this type of stuff.
The thing is I would agree with that, but okay, well, I only know what my church does, but we don't get together. There is no like conferences that we get together with like a bunch, like our pastors get together with a bunch of other pastors and go to a conference like the Southern Baptist Convention or something. Like I've never heard of that.
Let me ask this question. Why call yourself what's the benefit of calling yourself an independent fundamental Baptist?
Okay, I can answer that. So to be an independent fundamental Baptist, so there's different distinctives. You can just be an independent Baptist, which means you've broken off from the Southern Baptist Convention and you don't agree with their stipulations of what you have to agree to be in their convention. So you can be just an independent Baptist. Okay. And that means that you're just not associated with that conference. You're completely independent. You pay for your church yourself. Your member, well, the members pay for the church themselves, and they're not governed by any congregation or any convention or anything like that. So then after that, the fundamentals started coming and saying, because these other independents broke off, they broke off because they were too conservative, because the Southern Baptist Convention started getting too conservative, and all the conservatives were taking over again, and they didn't like it, so they broke off. So then they could basically do what they wanted to do, and they started going more liberal. Okay, so then you have another group who, whenever the Southern Baptist Convention started to become a little tiny bit more liberal over the years, and I'm talking about like within like the last 20, 30 years, maybe in 40 years, that they didn't like that, and they wanted to remain very conservative. So that's when your independent fundamental Baptists broke off and said, no, we need to keep it very strict, and we can't be. So that they're calling themselves fundamental because they believe they stick to the exact word of God, King James only. Let's keep it traditional from like I don't know, Charles Spurgeon or whatever, and he probably wouldn't even be a good example, but.
So let me pose my thoughts on this. So basically,
Okay.
this is what my perspective would be. So okay, I'm gonna use a negative. This is just an extreme version. I'm not equating to this at all. But right now in our culture, we have a gender problem, right? So we got all these people that are saying, "Oh, I'm he, I'm she, I'm non-binary, I'm them, I'm it, I'm an attack helicopter, whatever you want to say." Right. So you got all these categories that are growing. So it started with 2, then it went to 3, then it went to 15. And I think actually now it's in the 90s. There's like 90 categories you can be in for what kind of human you identify as. And the thing I'm noticing is as a logical person, I'm thinking totally from a secular perspective of like what the world should see as logical if they're not going to read the Bible. And what I see is at certain point, you just divide so far down that you're just individuals. And so why don't you just identify as yourself? Hey, my pronouns are Grant and I'm born a man. Like eventually you'll break down and get to that point where it's full circle and now you're back to just like, you just are who you are, right? That would be the logical conclusion, I would think. Obviously, it'll never get to that point because that's logical and that's not what the world is. But from a logical conclusion, it would break down so far to where each person is just themselves. And so I go to a church that's non-denominational. And that to me is what that would look like in a church setting. Why not just get to a point where you're just yourself? Why equate yourself with anyone when there's such strong voices with the same name? Why not just call yourself non-denominational, break away from every single group that there is, and just say, we don't associate with anyone. We don't want to be named after anyone. We're just us. We believe that this is what the Bible says, and that's what we teach, and we're not going to associate with a single other person on the planet because we are just a separate church that believes what the Bible teaches. Why not just do that?
I can answer
Well, what
that.
you just did is a name of a group, though.
Yeah, I can answer that one. Baptists have distinctives, and they do hold those distinctives of what is called a Baptist. And one of the distinctives also is the autonomy of the local church. Therefore, each church, it's its own authority. If they associate with anybody, it's based upon what they as a church want to do. They don't have to, or they may. And they can decide to, and then they can decide to leave, go someplace else, or have no association with anybody. So again, the reason why they stay as Baptist is because there is actually a distinctives, and a lot of times the word Baptist, they've created an acronym that can explain the distinctives of what a Baptist is.
Sure, I get that. And I heard what Taylor said as well, which is I just made another group by saying non-denominational. The reason I disagree with that, and I agree somewhat with that, but the reason I disagree with that is because the name of the group is that there is no group. Right. And so you can be a Catholic, have Catholic soteriology and call yourself non-denominational. You can be a Gnostic and call yourself non-denominational. There is no distinctives for non-denominational. There's none.
Yeah.
So it breaks down to the point where you can just have your own doctrinal beliefs that are completely separate by yourself.
Right, but it gets exhausting explaining that to everyone when you come into contact with people. So I think the terms and the Baptist, it helps it organize, helps people associate. That doesn't mean we have to believe the same, but it does help when we're coming into contact with people. It cuts through a lot of, it's helpful for labeling and organizing. And we're humans, that's what we're supposed to do.
Awesome panel tonight, guys.
If you went to a church building and there was nothing on the outside, you knew nothing about it, there's no website, you're going to spend so much time trying to find a church that would agree with something you want that would be beneficial for you. So the reason there's websites and we have that stuff is
go ahead, Mark. I know we need to land the plane.
Yeah, that's all right. I should have had bad timing. Sorry, Taylor. Good panel tonight. Thank you, everybody that came on. Thank you, Ben. It was nice to see you, meet you.
Part 2.
Ashley, what do you think really quick? I guess we'll do a part 2, right? And then if you have another video with more distinctive, especially doctrinally.
I would really like for Spencer to be able to hear a little bit of the partner paradigm, I really think that's important. Okay. I have the chart from the Ready to Harvest, and that's the Trail of Tears. I made this myself.
Oh, wow.
Wait, what?
Okay, we'll work on that again. We'll work on that, and then so the live chat out there, we're definitely going to have a part 2 to this, and probably another short series on distinctives.
Oh, this is a lot more in depth than the stick figures we saw on the other guy's screen.
So, with that said,
that's typical Baptist history.
Well, apparently, it goes back to John. So
right.
Yeah. Oh, that's the trail. That's the trail of blood that has where they, we started with John the Baptist. We didn't start with Jesus. We started with John the Baptist because he's Baptist. So that's how we started.
Yeah, that's like all the what are they called? What are they called? The landmark Baptists. That's the ones that believe that they go all the way back to basically Jesus. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So to the live chat and the panel, we'll be working on a part 2 and maybe another short series on distinctives. We got a Greek flight coming up here in about 8 minutes. Thank you again for everybody on the panel. Thank you for everybody out there in the live chat. Keep Chris Morrison and Turton Fan in prayer for the debate Friday. Also, thank you for Donnie's channel. So keep him in his channel in prayer, standing for truth as he hosts these. And then Brother Charles Saturday with Dan Chapa, both on John 15. Keep Charles and Dan Chapa in prayer and Donnie's channel. And we look forward to doing more of this. It was pretty interesting hearing the distinctives, and I hope to get even deeper in all this. And because we love our brother, who must not be named, because of the offenses of YouTube against him, I'm going to have Kurt, please protect our brother who must be unnamed. And something about YouTube stuff that's important, but keep it vague.
Oh, there's something called a like button. And maybe you liked some of the things we said. I know you didn't like anything I said, but maybe
I know you loved everything I said.
Yeah, of course. Everyone loves PB. Go ahead.
Quickly, he's on to us. Hurry.
Hit that like button. Then there's a thing called subscribe, where if you want to get notifications that we're there, just jump on it, pounce on it, make sure you get it, make sure it hits in. That way you get notified that we are on. And then also do the share.
Positionally, not experientially.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. God bless. Our next flight is
a
a short. We're doing a short paraglide. All right. Thanks, everybody. God bless.
See you, heretics.
God bless.